Moscow, Idaho, is a quiet college town with a population of about 25,000 people. It's home to the University of Idaho, a campus known for its close-knit community and peaceful surroundings. Serious crimes are rare there. The town hadn't seen a homicide in years before 2022. The victims. 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in the early hours of Sunday, November 13, 2022. They were Kaylee Goncalves, 21, a senior general studies major, recently graduated early, and planning to move to Texas for a new job. Madison Maddie Mogan, 21, a marketing major and Kaylee's best friend since childhood. Xana Kernadal, 20, a junior majoring in marketing, remembered for her bright personality. Ethan Chapin, 20, a freshman studying recreation, sport, and tourism management, and Xana's boyfriend. Kaylee and Madison shared the top floor of a 3-story rental house at 1122 King Road, located near campus. Xana and Ethan stayed in the second-floor bedroom. 2 other roommates lived on the first floor. They were unharmed and likely asleep during the killings. The night of November 12th to 13th, 2022. On the night of Saturday, November 12th, the group had a typical weekend routine. Kaylee and Madison spent the evening at a local bar called Corner Club, located downtown. Around 1:40 a.m., they stopped at a nearby food truck, where they were seen on live stream footage. They then took a ride home using a private party driver, arriving around 1:56 a.m. Xana and Ethan attended a fraternity party at Sigma Chi, located nearby. They returned home around 1:45 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates were already home before 2 a.m. Between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., investigators believe the murders occurred. Police later determined that all 4 victims were stabbed multiple times with a fixed-blade knife. There were no signs of sexual assault, and nothing appeared stolen. The discovery. At 11:58 a.m. on November 13th, a 911 call was placed from one of the surviving roommates' phones. The caller reported an unconscious person. When police arrived, they found a gruesome crime scene and all 4 students deceased inside. The Moscow Police Department, Idaho State Police, and FBI soon joined forces on the investigation. The small town quickly turned into a national focus. Students were terrified, classes shifted online, and parents demanded answers as police searched for the killer. When Moscow police officers arrived at 1122 King Road around noon on November 13, 2022, they discovered a violent scene involving 4 victims. Detectives immediately secured the house and began collecting physical evidence. The surviving roommates and other friends were quickly ruled out as suspects. Police confirmed they were not involved. No murder weapon was found at the scene. Investigators described the killings as targeted, but did not publicly explain why. This statement later drew attention and confusion, as the motive and suspect were unknown for weeks. Massive investigation effort. By late November, the case had drawn in over 100 law enforcement officers from local, state, and federal agencies. Police received more than 20,000 tips. They reviewed thousands of hours of surveillance footage from homes and businesses around the King Road neighborhood. Over 300 interviews were conducted. Despite the scale, for several weeks there were no named suspects, and public frustration grew as speculation spread online. Key early evidence. Authorities released the following verified details. Type of weapon, believed to be a large fixed-blade knife, likely a Ka bar-style combat knife. Entry point. There were no signs of forced entry. One of the surviving roommates reported hearing noises during the night but locked herself in her room. Timeline. Investigators narrowed the murders to 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. By December, police identified a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra seen on surveillance cameras near the crime scene during that time frame. This vehicle became the central lead. Breakthrough, the Hyundai Elantra. On December 7, 2022, authorities appealed to the public for information about any white Hyundai Elantra registered in the area. That appeal triggered tips from across the country. Within 2 weeks, investigators connected a matching vehicle to a graduate student living in Pullman, Washington, just 10 miles from Moscow. The owner was Bryan Kohberger, 28, a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Police began covert surveillance on him and his vehicle. Forensic development. During the search of the Idaho home, investigators had recovered a tan leather knife sheath on a bed beside one of the victims. On that sheath, they found a single male DNA profile. That DNA did not match anyone in law enforcement databases at the time, but it was preserved. When investigators later examined trash from Kohberger's family residence in Pennsylvania, they obtained a DNA sample from his father that matched the sheath DNA with strong statistical certainty. This discovery, combined with phone records and car data, allowed police to narrow their focus. Arrest. In the early morning hours of December 30, 2022, a SWAT team arrested Bryan Kohberger at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Kohberger agreed to waive extradition and was transported back to Idaho on January 4, 2023. The affidavit unsealed shortly afterward provided the first detailed look into the evidence linking him to the crime. After Bryan Kohberger's arrest in late December 2022, the probable cause affidavit was released on January 5, 2023. It provided the first detailed look at how investigators connected him to the killings of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. DNA evidence. At the crime scene, investigators discovered a tan leather knife sheath lying beside Madison Mogen's body on the bed. The sheath carried the U.S. Marine Corps insignia and had a button snap closure. Laboratory testing found a single male DNA profile on the snap button. In December 2022, police collected trash from outside Kohberger's parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, and submitted it for testing. Results showed that the DNA on the sheath was 99.9998% likely to come from a biological relative of the man whose DNA was found in the trash, linking it to Bryan Kohberger. This DNA match was a key element that justified the arrest warrant. Cell phone data. Investigators also analyzed cell phone tower records. Kohberger's phone, a white iPhone, was traced traveling from Pullman, Washington, to the area of the King Road residence on the night of the murders. Between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m., the phone was turned off or entered airplane mode, preventing any tower connections, a suspicious gap coinciding with the estimated time of the killings. Around 4:48 a.m., his phone reconnected to cell towers near Moscow, Idaho, and began moving back toward Pullman. Historical data also showed that his phone had been in the area of the King Road house at least 12 times before the murders, mostly late at night or early in the morning. This suggested prior surveillance or familiarity with the victim's residence. Surveillance footage and vehicle evidence. Security footage from multiple Moscow neighborhood cameras showed a white Hyundai Elantra driving through the area between 3:29 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. on November 13th. The car circled the neighborhood several times before departing at high speed around 4:20 a.m. Later footage showed the same type of vehicle traveling toward Pullman. When police ran local vehicle registrations, they found that Bryan Kohberger owned a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra. License plate reader data also confirmed his car's movements matched the footage timeline. Investigators retrieved the vehicle from his parents' home after his arrest and sent it for forensic analysis. Eyewitness account. One of the surviving roommates, referred to as DM in the affidavit, provided crucial testimony. Around 4 a.m., she was awakened by noises, what sounded like crying from Xana's room and a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Moments later, she saw a man dressed in black clothing and a mask covering his mouth and nose walking toward her. He was described as being athletically built, about 5 feet 10 inches or taller, with bushy eyebrows. The man walked past her and exited through the sliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room. She did not see him again and called friends the next morning before police were notified. Her description matched Kohberger's general appearance when later arrested. Additional forensic and digital clues. Tire marks consistent with the type used by Kohberger's Elantra were found near the crime scene. Forensic testing of items seized from Kohberger's WSU apartment revealed possible hair strands, still under analysis. His laptop and phones were also seized for data recovery. Together, these pieces formed a detailed timeline that prosecutors presented to justify the charges. Summary of evidence presented in the affidavit. Type of evidence. Details. Connection to Kohberger. DNA. Single male DNA on knife sheath. Matched to Kohberger's family DNA. Cell data. Phone inactive 2:47 to 4:48 a.m. Coincides with time of murders. Vehicle footage. White Elantra near crime scene. Matches Kohberger's car. Eyewitness. Masked man with bushy eyebrows. Matches Kohberger's description. Prior presence. Phone pinged near house 12 times before. Suggests familiarity. On December 30th, 2022, at about 1:30 a.m., a SWAT team from the Pennsylvania State Police raided a home in Chestnut Hill Township, Monroe County, the residence of Bryan Kohberger's parents. He was arrested without incident. Authorities seized a white Hyundai Elantra, 2015 model, several personal items, including a computer, cell phone, and clothing, a medical-style glove, a flashlight, and potential trace evidence. The arrest followed weeks of surveillance by the FBI, who had tracked Kohberger's movements after he drove cross-country from Washington State University, Pullman, to Pennsylvania in mid-December. 2. Family shock and cooperation. Kohberger's parents, Michael and Marianne Kohberger, were reportedly stunned by the arrest. They expressed sympathy for the victims' families and said they were cooperating with law enforcement. Neighbors later confirmed seeing Kohberger helping his father clean out the car days before the raid, an act that drew investigators' attention after the vehicle became central to the case. 3. Extradition to Idaho. After his arrest, Kohberger appeared before a Pennsylvania judge on December 31, 2022, and waived extradition, meaning he voluntarily agreed to return to Idaho to face charges. He reportedly told the judge he was eager to be exonerated. On January 4, 2023, he was transported by a law enforcement convoy to Lotta County Jail in Moscow, Idaho, arriving under tight security. 4. Formal charges. Upon arrival, prosecutors formally charged Kohberger with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary for entering the King Road residence with intent to commit murder. He made his first court appearance on January 5, 2023 before Judge Megan Marshall, where the following occurred. He was denied bail and held without bond. The judge imposed a gag order, restricting public comments from police, lawyers, and victims' families to prevent influencing potential jurors. Kohberger was assigned public defender and Taylor, one of Idaho's most experienced capital case attorneys. 5. The courtroom behavior. Courtroom observers described Kohberger as calm and composed, wearing standard orange jail attire, speaking softly and maintaining limited eye contact, often taking notes and avoiding direct looks toward the victims' families. He spoke only to confirm his identity and acknowledge his understanding of the charges. 6. Early legal motions. Kohberger's defense quickly began, requesting all discovery evidence, including DNA results and digital data, arguing that the state's probable cause affidavit was circumstantial, not definitive, filing motions to suppress certain evidence, such as the cell tower and traffic stop data, questioning the FBI's role in his surveillance and DNA collection. Prosecutors, meanwhile, prepared to seek the death penalty, citing the heinous, cruel nature of the crime and multiple victims. 7. Timeline of key court dates as of now. Date. Event. Summary. December 30th, 2022. Arrest. Kohberger taken into custody in Pennsylvania. January 4th, 2023. Extradition. Returned to Idaho under heavy security. January 5th, 2023. First court appearance. Formally charged, denied bail. May 2023. Indictment. Grand jury formally indicts him. June 2023, 2025. Ongoing. Pre-trial hearings, evidence challenges, DNA analysis, and motions. As of October 2025, the case remains in pre-trial status, with repeated delays due to DNA discovery disputes, defense motions, and a potential change of venue request, arguing that widespread media coverage could bias a local jury. 8. Where the case stands now, 2025 update. Bryan Kohberger remains held without bail at Lotta County Jail. The death penalty remains on the table. Judge John Judge, who replaced Judge Marshall for trial proceedings, continues to hear motions on evidence admissibility. Prosecutors have turned over more than 100,000 pages of discovery, including digital data, forensic reports, and interviews. Defense lawyers continue to argue that the state's case relies too heavily on circumstantial evidence. The trial has been tentatively set for mid-2026, though no firm date has been confirmed. Closing note for Part 4. The The Idaho student murders case has become one of the most intensely followed U.S. crime stories in recent years, not only because of its brutality, but because the accused was a criminology PhD student who studied criminal behavior and even surveyed ex-cons about their motives for committing crimes.